Hey, guess what?
What?
This is a kind of, I don't know, we've been doing this podcast now for just about 6 months.
Wow, half a year.
And we're just hoping that everybody out there has been able to learn how to pivot from parent to partner. I'm Steve Cummings.
And I'm Julia Cummings.
Hey, we're here with another edition of the Parent Pivot Podcast, so thanks for joining us. And as we always do, we sit down at the kitchen table on a high-top desk. We're looking out over our backyard here in Swanee, Georgia. Nice sunny day, lots of deer. And I usually flip on the mic and hit record and go, sweetie, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so what I thought about, I like to do things kind of in real time. Like when we have dealt with something this week, I like to pass it on.
Yes.
One thing we dealt with this week was putting our dog down, which was very, very difficult. And I think back to the previous podcast where we talked about getting a life, and I brought up the thing with don't let your animals dictate your whole life.
Right.
And we had kind of gotten to that point where it was just really difficult to leave Coda for long enough.
Right.
We are leaving on a vacation in 2 days for 2 weeks. And so anyway. And
he's 15 years old and just getting, things are just breaking down faster and faster. In fact, the last week before we put him down, a normal 15, 20-minute walk was taking 45 minutes.
Right.
And we miss him because you come home and it's quiet. He's not here to greet us, and that's hard. And so, you go through a grieving process even with a close animal.
Yeah, we've shed many, many tears this week. So
we have, and they haven't stopped.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because
we're not talking about dogs.
Yeah, that's not the subject of our podcast. But I did want to acknowledge the fact that I remember saying that in the podcast, and I know for many of you that is a really hard concept, and so I just wanted to bring that up again and just kind of reiterate that we know the feeling, and it's really tough, and putting your dog down is really, really, really tough. Yep. So anyway, but the subject that I really did want to talk about, which is also a real-time topic,
is what?
Is kind of grandparents part 2. I think it was in one of the last couple of podcasts, we were talking about grandparenting and things like that, and boundaries within that, and things like that. And one thing I just wanted to bring up for all of you who are grandparents out there, I realize that your children have different stages of life that they're kind of in. Some of them may be married, some of them may be unmarried, some of them may be in college.
Right.
You might still have one at home.
Right.
All of those things. So I just wanted to bring up how important it is for your grandchildren to see you treating them all equally.
Okay.
So let's use giving money as an example for a birthday or something like that. Maybe
you send money for all birthdays. I know your mom at 92 years old. Oh my gosh, she's got 20. She has everybody's birthday and anniversary, and she's great at doing this and remembering. Although
yeah, she writes it all down on her calendar every month. She's got it all written down on her calendar. Yes. And at the beginning of the month, she'll get a bunch of cards and she'll address them, and she'll write checks, and she'll, she's very methodical about it. That doesn't mean that sometimes she doesn't forget.
Right. Or sometimes she does mail it off to somebody, and then a few weeks later they get a second one because she doesn't remember. We go, hey, I already got a gift from Grandma Joe.
Right.
And we talked about her on the Mother's Day podcast, but this isn't about money. It's about your kids. Grandkids are going to see things based on how you do things, and
so what we really want to talk about is the perception from their point of view,
right? Because that was the real time thing we went through this week,
right? So just the idea that, so let's say every birthday you're giving your grandchildren $10-$20 or something like that. So if there is, let's say you give one time $50 to one of those grandchildren.
Yeah.
The other grandchildren
They're gonna know.
See it.
Yep.
Now it's not about the money.
It's not.
It's never about the money.
It's never about the money. It's about
it's about I'm less
than.
I'm less than.
That's what is perceived as, for whatever reason, that person got more, I feel less than, and that's the hurt that then can get in the way of a relationship.
Right. And again, I realize as a grandparent, maybe you don't remember what you gave, when you gave, how you gave, why you gave.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be money. It could be a gift. It could be taking them on a trip, anything like that.
Right, because I know grandparents will take grandkids on trips when they hit certain ages and things like that. So everybody else is watching and knows what's happening.
Right.
So
just, I guess what I really wanted to say is, number one, keep track.
Right.
Every time you give something to a grandchild, keep track of it so that you know.
Right. Maybe write it down.
Yeah, write it down. Put it on your calendar, whatever. Second, make sure you're always consistent. Like if it's a birthday, I'm going to give $20 every birthday.
Right.
Or
right.
I'm going to give a gift card to this place or whatever for this amount.
Yep.
If it's an anniversary, keep track of what you gave one person. And, it's just, you want the perception. And again, your reality is different than your grandchild's reality.
Right. And I remember, too, when we were struggling, I was between jobs, we were normally giving a very generous gift to our kids for their birthdays. But all of a sudden, I was making half as much money. And we let them know, hey, you guys, and the kids knew that. It wasn't about, hey, we can't do what we normally did in the past. And they knew we were struggling financially. Right. And we were able to do about, I think, maybe half as much as what we normally did. But we communicated that ahead of time because we wanted to be proactive in that to let them know, hey, it's not about the money. All of our kids are so gracious about receiving it. And same thing from your mom. Nobody expects it. Right. Everybody's grateful and thankful about that. So when you can't do it, maybe there's other things that come into play. Maybe there's things that happen with your house or job or health or things like that. And all of a sudden you're going, oh, shoot, we can't do big Christmas. We can't do birthdays. We can't do anniversaries. Or what we normally did, we could maybe do half. I'd say go ahead and let the whole family know that. Yeah. Because it's not about the amount. But when it's just done and there isn't any follow-up to it, that's where the hurt can come in. Right, right. And really it's just about your grandchild, no matter what their age is. It does not matter what their age is. It's about your grandchild's perception of, wow, grandma and grandpa don't like me as much as Johnny, or, I'm less important to them, or whatever it is. So I would just keep those things in mind as you are doing things for your grandchildren. And I'm sure you kind of probably went through this with your own children when you were raising them. You're always going to, scoop an ice cream and they're going to go, Johnny got more than I did. Right. They notice. Right. So if you're going to spoil your grandkids, spoil away. Right. Just make sure it is done in an equal manner. Can I add a little wrinkle to this? So in our real-time thing, we were the middle generation. Yes. So our adult child was the one that was struggling with something with grandparents. Yeah. And things. And from their perception, it was like, gosh, I feel hurt because I feel less than. Yeah. And to their credit, we stayed out of it. Yeah. It's not our pig, not our farm. Go back to podcast number, I think it was 2. Yeah. And this is where we tell our adult children, we're the middle generation. Hey, if you want to say something, then you go talk to grandma and grandpa. It's on you to do that. And this child did that and things. And I would say if you're that grandparent and you're hearing your grandchild and you know that, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this. Just sit. It goes back to what we've been doing all along in our podcast. Don't try to correct them and tell them that they're wrong, because as soon as you start explaining why a different grandchild got something different than this one, you're telling that one who got hurt, your feelings don't matter. Right. And all this is about being right. Just say, I am so sorry. That wasn't my intention. And things like that. Just sit and listen. There doesn't need to be any explanation other than, I'm so sorry that happened, and that wasn't my intention. Here's what really happened, and be done. There needs to be no other explanation. Yeah. And whatever. Your adult child is going to love that, and just know that they just want to feel loved. Yeah. And, our
I love that you brought that up, because it is up to, and it kind of goes to previous podcast, I think a couple ago, that where it's like you are not responsible for your spouse's or your child's relationships with somebody else.
And it's so easy for us to run to our mom and dad and said, hey, you messed up with such and such a child.
Right.
You need to fix that. It's like, no, that's not my relationship to jump into.
Right. So I was proud of our child to be able to express what they were feeling, and to be able to say, this hurt me, because they felt unimportant. They felt less than. And so... And
it wasn't just the one time. This child hadn't gotten anything for 2 or 3 years while watching another one of our kids get something.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure... things were overlooked or not remembered or at random, and I understand. But if you're that grandparent, just sit and listen to your grandchild's heart and weep with them and tell them how much you love them and that wasn't the intent. And things. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to explain it. It just makes it worse. It makes them feel unheard, and my feelings don't count.
Right. Yeah. So I would go along with that. That just, listen to their heart. Listen to their heart. Say you're sorry and that you love them. That's all that needs to be said.
Yeah, really. Real simple.
Like, you're so important to me.
And again, I would say when you're in the middle generation and it's your parents that are now you're watching something happen. We're the bystander watching something happen with our parents and our kids, and we stay out of it.
Yeah, we haven't always. No. There have been a couple of times when the kids were younger where we stepped in.
But they're adults now, and we want to partner well with them instead of parenting them, so we don't need to. It's like, hey, if there was an issue, we point them back. You need to go talk to so-and-so. You need to go. I mean, Matthew 18. In fact, that's what our child did. Was I just felt led by Matthew 18 and saying, hey, this is what hurt. And I wanted to let you know, and I commend that child.
Yes. Yeah, so that's really all that we wanted to say today.
Yeah, kind of a short podcast. Not really. It's summertime now. Y'all are listening to this, and again, the way to get a hold of us is let us know what's going on. What are you liking about the podcast? Go on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Look for the Parent Pivot Podcast there. Like it, share it in your feed,
or email us.
And you can email us at parentpivotpodcast@gmail.com. I'm just grateful that people are starting to catch hold of this all over the country. I mean, I travel for work, and I just find different people are going, hey, I found your podcast, and things. It's like, wow, that's awesome. And so if you can share it, if you hear people are struggling, there's about 25 episodes out there now, and we're at the 6-month pace. We're trying to put one up every Tuesday, and we're trying to come up with different topics. In fact, if you have something going on in your life with your adult child, please let us know. Put that on the Facebook comment. Put it in an email to parentpivotpodcast@gmail.com, and also in the show notes, you know how to get a hold of Julia at her website and me at my website. And we're just here to help you parent by pivoting to being a partner.
Yes.
That's all we have for this podcast. Hope you guys join us next time.
See you later.